Wax on, wax off, wax on, wax off. That's a little Karate Kid reference. For those of you who have never lived through the 80s, or maybe that was early 90s. By the way, if any of you guys are sitting there dealing with something that you've had a problem in your agency for longer than 30 days, I'm telling you, you'll make your life so much easier. Reach out, send me a message. If I can help you personally, I will. I'll point you to the best resource. For me, it benefits me by turning your answers into content for these kind of shows. So there's no downside to it. I've probably seen your challenge 1,000 times before. So I just wanted to let you guys know that that was on the table. And also, doing some pretty big things with the YouTube channel right now. I know it doesn't look like much, but I have some pretty big goals for that one and specifically. So if you're not following us on YouTube, I'm updating it almost every day. I finally got an amazing assistant named Mark who's helping me stay on top of the editing. So I'm going to be sharing great ideas, cool stuff with you guys, stuff that'll make your life easier. And it's just a guy walking around sharing cool ideas about how to build an agency and be free and have a cool life. So let's get into the questions anyway. John, has anyone had luck with cold or commission-based cold callers? Yes, John, but there is an asterisk, okay? And I'll tell you, this is what happens. A lot of times people try and hire commission-only people because their offer isn't working and they think, what do I have to lose, right? Like if they're commission only, I only have to pay them after they make me money. And what you're going to find is if you send an army of commission-based people out there without a proven process in place, you're not bringing enough value to the table for them, so they'll disappear on you. I've had my best luck with commission-only people when you have something that's already working. Kind of like why most affiliates are drawn to really big affiliate offers, right? Because they already know it's selling. They already know they're going to make money. They just want to get in this stream of what's already working. So that's an important piece you got to bring to the table. And if you do that, you can have all kinds of commission affiliate-based deals, especially in this market. Alana, what is your minimum starting point for local SEO? And would you mind sharing your package pricing, not details for packages you charge your clients for local? Related to that, how did you approach legacy clients that you may have locked in at a lower price? I know there are variables to think of in terms of population, so 200 to 500,000, thanks. Alana, that is a loaded question, how to price SEO. Firstly, I'll answer your last question last. I've always been really cool where if I have a legacy client who's been with me forever, I tend to not like just drastically raise the price on them. I like to give them the benefit of being the first people. I'm not saying that's the only way to do it. That's just how I do it. Now, as far as what do you charge, it is always relative to the value you're bringing. So what do I mean by that? Okay, so if you're doing... And I'll give you an example locally. Right outside my door here, across the street, there is a lawyer, which is a niche I know very well. In German, it's called Rechtsanwalt. And just a little bit down the street, there's a little bakery. And there's a whole lot of nice German bakeries here. And they sell little pastries for a couple of bucks here and there, a couple of euros. Well, if you do SEO for that lawyer, you're going to be able to charge more than if you do it for the bakery. So the first thing is, and that's just based on math, because the fact that a lawyer, one client might be worth $5,000, $10,000, $50,000, $100,000, as where the bakery, one client might come in and spend €4.50, and they might do it every day for a week, so they're worth far more than that over the long term. But so much of it is actually the value you bring to your table. So your offer is more than just SEO. Like, how are you using your tool SEO to bring them business? And then obviously you mentioned the size of the city is going to make a difference. I'll tell you, when I first started, my SEO packages started at $400 a month. That was in 2007, so I wouldn't recommend doing that. But it's what you needed to get started. And one of the things that we help people do in our coaching program now is to sell those same packages for $5,000 and even $10,000. So if you want to get to the side of it where you're charging $5,000 or $10,000, it usually has more to do with who you are doing that SEO for. So there's a whole sliding scale anywhere between like I would say like $500 a month and 10 grand is typical. But for those of them that are consistently charging 10 grand and above, it usually has more to do with who they're doing the SEO part. So that's the part you actually want to think about most, not how do I price my package. Coomerpal, what is the best place to sell website, especially blogs, best in terms of value, payments, and genuine buyers? I want to sell my blog, including all the contents. Coomerpal, one word, Flippa, FLIPPA.com. I've sold a couple of websites. It's been over 10 years, but they're the longest. They've been in the game a while. People go there to buy websites. I'll tell you, if you want to get more money for your website, make sure it has like the systems in place to earn money. If you're like selling it because you're just tired of like updating your blog and being busy, and blogging's a lot of work. If you just don't want to do that anymore, make sure at least the website is profitable, because usually I find you can get like 6 months to a year to 2 years, depending on the format of your monthly revenue. So like if you're earning $1,000 a month, you might be able to get 12,000 for that website, or 10,000 or something like that. So yeah, but anyways, use Flippa. That'll make your life a whole lot easier. Kevin, what is the best online course to get better at copywriting? Doesn't have to be just for ad writing, but also email marketing, landing page copy, etc. For context, I've been in a PPC agency for a year, so I'm not a beginner, but I would like to take my skills to the next level. Kevin, there's some good groups around the internet. My favorite one is called the Cult of Copy. I think it's actually better than any course, is to network with other copywriters. And I'll tell you something else that is in my experience, is copywriting is like certainly a valuable skill. Like, I'm not going to tell you like copywriters don't earn money. Good ones do. But offer making is a skill that's like actually way up here. And I can hire like pretty average copywriters to sell great offers. But it doesn't work in reverse. You can't hire the greatest copywriter to sell a shitty offer. It just doesn't work that way. So I'll tell you, if you're going to get good at just one thing, I would actually suggest you get good at making offer making. Having said that, the best probably copy book I've read all time, that my favorite anyway, is, and it's a little bit tough to get your hands on, Eugene Schwartz, Breakthrough Advertising. Anybody who's interested in that, I may have a under the table PDF for you. Don't tell anybody, because it's but you know, it's one of those old out of published books. Came out in the 70s, but it's pretty timeless. And actually the best copy you'll ever learn is the stuff that's 100 years old, the Claude Hopkins, the David Ogilvy's. I would suggest you read all those things. You do that, you'll take your skills to the next level. But I'll tell you, like, the biggest piece of the copy that people don't think about is the end. What are you going to offer? If you try and dress up a shitty offer with words, you're going to have a hard time. And I'll give you an example of this. Like, imagine you're at a football game, and then let's say it's like pre-COVID where there's 80,000 people there, and imagine you're the only one in the football stadium selling all-you-can-eat barbecue and beer, okay? You could probably improve that offer with some good copywriting, like frosty beer and ice-cold beer and tender ribs and things like that. But at the end of the day, you're going to sell a whole lot at a football game because people want beer and barbecue. But let's just say you're like me, you're vegetarian, you're selling little vegetarian. You're probably going to have a harder time at a football game where they're just carnivores, right? So offer making is the real skill. And I would suggest learning that, and that'll help you as well. So anyways, those are some good copy recommendations. What do you guys use to pay your employees that are overseas? 4 options that I've used, and I'll tell you, my favorite is TransferWise. They're fast. They have the lowest fees. Second favorite is PayPal. I know it's like they got high fees, but it's the easiest to use. So for that reason, it's nice because everybody has one. Another one, especially if you're paying in like India and Pakistan, is called Payoneer. And then another one is called Xoom, Xoom. All 4 of those are good payment options for paying people overseas. But TransferWise is definitely my favorite. All right, Kyle. What is a decent conversion rate? We are trying to improve our results. We ran a campaign for a dog trainer with 2 ad sets over a 7-day period. Class is $250. We ran 2 ads, one with the flyer, which had a 4.67% Facebook result. The second ad had a pic of the trainer and a dog, 8 0.3% Facebook ad result. Ad spend was $160. Reach was 6850, 481 websites. Overall, 4.3% Facebook result rate. 10 people signed up for the class. Not horrible results, but thinking it should be way better. Next campaign, we're going to add a short video on the landing page. So firstly, Kyle, based on the numbers you gave, so from what I understand, you sold 10 people on a $250 thing and spent $160. So that means the cost, not including your fee, was $160 on ads, and you made the client $250. Those are good numbers all day long. If you're more than 10 to 1, then just keep running that indefinitely. Don't change that. Too many times people are trying to tweak and optimize when they should be spending more money on it. So I would say in your case, spend more money on it. Having said that, the single most important metric in any business is not from your conversion rate from stranger to first sale. That is a misnomer that most people think. It is from first sale to second sale. So my question to you is what are you going to do with the 10 people that already signed up? Because that's actually your biggest opportunity. If you help them with that, you will do far more for their business than anything that you can do on the front end with ads. If they're just going to churn people out of a dog training class, you'll make some money, but you won't be able to sustain it. So the biggest thing that they're actually going to need help with is keeping those people. And I see this a lot in our agencies, right? People get really good at selling, but not really good at keeping people. So you want to be good at both. Matthew, if I cold DM people on Facebook, what's the best way to go about it? Add them and wait for them to accept and then DM, or add and DM at the same time? Matthew, it's totally cool to reach out to people right away, but I'll tell you 99% of people do it horribly fucking wrong, which is they add you and then they go, hey, buy my shit. And you're not going to sell a lot of shit just adding people and saying, buy my shit, other than really desperate people. So what I would suggest is, if you're going to actually add people and DM them, firstly, add them strategically to make sure they're a fit, right? So let's just say you're like Kyle in the last example, and you're selling a dog training course. Well, then you want to add people who have dogs, right? That would need to train them, right? So that's the first thing. And then, the example, given that the dog conversation, you actually always, 100% of the time, want to open the conversation about the other person, their situation, and what they're doing. That's where people get it horribly wrong. Where I get people who add me and just say, buy my shit, and like most of you guys, I just ignore them. But it's very, very different if somebody adds you and says, hey, I noticed you got this really cute dog over there. Just wanted to say I really whatever, right? That's a much better way to open a conversation, and it leads into what you're doing because you're talking about dogs. Hey, what do you do? Oh, I train dogs. Oh, really? How do you go about that? So you always want to start the conversation in the other people, and add people strategically, not just randomly, just mass. There's this kind of churn and burn, mass add people and send messages mentality that kind of sucks, to be honest. All right. I hope you're saying your name right. Sagar, S-A-G-A-R. What's the best way to reach out to a potential client? Cold calling, DM, cold emailing. What has worked best for you? Sagar. It depends on who you're trying to reach. There's no one-shot answer, but the question implies that cold calling or DM or emailing is what makes it work, and it's really not. It's what you're saying, what you're offering, what you're messaging. But the simplest answer is to go where they already are and to use the least crowded channel. So in some niches, I actually use personally direct mail, because I know that nobody else is trying to mail them, and it's, believe it or not, it's really cheap to send targeted direct mail. I can send letters for $1, and usually every 100 letters I send out, I get a buyer back. So don't poo-poo on direct mail, I'll tell you, but it depends. If you're dealing with an offline niche like roofers and handymen who don't have websites and don't even have emails and they don't check them, then you just got to call these people, right? But if you're dealing with other niches, if you're dealing with, say, for example, Facebook e-commerce, people who advertise on Facebook, use Facebook ads and sell e-commerce products, I should say, and have Shopify stores, then just go to a Facebook group and find them there. So the answer, I know that it's kind of leaves it a little bit too many variables, but go where they are already and then find the least crowded channel, and then use the advice of that previously mentioned. Don't just spam them with buy my shit, which is how everybody else does it and then ends up losing. All right, Bazarov, if you had a budget of $1,000 per month for only an SEO content writer, Where would you search for the best SEO content writer who is Native American and really good at SEO? I'm asking because I'm looking for one and can't really find a good one. Well, if you're looking for somebody who's a content writer and really good at SEO, you're not going to find them on a budget of $1,000 a month. But I'll tell you, one of the things you can do is you can, with good processes, you can turn kind of like people who know how to write into good SEO people, because you can train them on like the posting and sharing content and those things. Those all things can learn. So what I'll tell you, this is how we did it in our SEO agency, and it saved us a lot of headaches. Is I had a shitload of content writers, and we had a process for how they came up with magazine quality articles. And the simplest way was we actually rewrote existing good magazine articles. So I made a database of like 20 or 30 really good articles in a niche that I liked that we could always go back to and rewrite. And then I would have my VAs, after having written an article, send it to my small college American team that would go through and like clean it up and make it really, really nice. And then I had a team set for distribution. And that's how we consistently put out magazine quality SEO content, but on a budget. Like you, I wasn't spending, gazillions of dollars to get the best SEO people. I was just doing it with a bare bones staff of VAs and college writers and, more people to help with distribution. So that's what worked best for me. I'm not saying it's the only way to solve that problem, but I would definitely consider that option. Ramon, how many clients can one person handle, and do you use Google ads and Facebook ads and YouTube for these clients? Ramon, the amount of clients one person can handle really depends on like how much custom work you're doing for people. If you do custom work for every client, like you get a plumber you do AdWords for, and you get a dentist you run some Facebook ads for, and you get a local restaurant you run some YouTube ads for them, you're going to burn out really quickly because you just are doing too many things. But for example, in our current lawyer agency, like we just run the same ads, same landing pages, same targeting. So I can actually have like one virtual assistant, or say I was doing it myself, manage a lot of stuff because it's systematized, it's organized. Now, as far as should I use Google or should I use Facebook or should I use YouTube, I'll tell you, it just depends on what will work best in your niche. And so I always start with like what's already getting results in those niches. And what you'll find is it's not often any of those three actually. Like in some offline niches, you'll find that the thing that actually works best for them is word of mouth. And they do zero on purpose to multiply that word of mouth. So before I add front end ads and all those things, there are other opportunities to do it. But having said that, just go where their traffic is. So like if people are searching them on Google and it's relatively affordable, go there. If it's on Facebook, go there. If it's on YouTube, go there. But go where the audience is. It depends on niche to niche. So if you send me an email with your niche or a message, I can give you a more specific answer. But without that, it's hard to do. Barnesy, our man Barnesy. All right, I love this one right here. Got a random question and thought you random folk might have a random answer. That's so Barnesy-ish. I'm not a names person and don't follow anyone specifically, so not the best person for this question. Hi, Michael. I have sold all my life, typically, that is, pitching ideas, requesting funding for a new initiative. I have never had a quota to meet and am considering moving that direction with my career. It seems daunting to me, and I'd like some input. Will you recommend any book, blogs, programs as an idea salesman, that's me, can use to transition their talent into the sales of a service or product? There's a ton of books on selling, but I'll tell you just this is my experience with it, is ultimately selling is about finding more efficient ways to solve problems for people. And as long as you know how to identify problems and show people like how that's affecting their life and provide real valuable solutions, any idea can be sold. And it's no different selling a $5 trinket or $100,000 coaching package or mastermind. It's like ultimately they're hiring you to solve a very specific problem. So the more you can hone in on that. Now, having said that, one of the best books I've read on that I think is a way of doing selling ethically. And what I mean by ethically is it's not push selling, and it's actually value-driven selling where you're actually helping people and they enjoy the sales process, is Neil Rackman's Spin Selling is a really, really good book on that. But ultimately, rather than thinking about how do I sell my idea, it's better to think about like what problems do my clients or customers or patients have that this idea can help solve for them. And what you'll find is that when you think like that, selling any idea is ultimately the same, because it's really just about positioning your idea as the solution to that thing, right? So that's the short version. But Neil Rackman, Spin Selling, is probably the best book you're going to find on that. And it's a good read, too. So that's it. If you guys got any other questions, reach out to it, brother. That's how I make these shows. And by the way, your questions help everybody. So you're not just like selfishly getting an answer. And if for any reason like you're considering working with us, just want to let you know that our programs never have a sales pitch, ever. We just send you a Google Doc or a Loom video, depending on which offer you're considering, and that's it. And you make up your own mind. So if there's anything you're considering, like, you don't have to sit through a sales pitch or anything like that. So don't hesitate to reach out. We'll just send you a doc. You can make up your own mind. And if you're just asking for you, not to consider working with us together, ask away, because like I said, probably seen your challenge 1,000 times before, and you can make your life easier. Wax on. I wish I knew this stuff in 2007, by the way. My life wouldn't have taken me 4 years to really get an agency off the ground. You don't have to take 4 years to do it. Anyways, much love to you guys, and may the force be with you.